in trouble now.
You ready?
It's 4 o'clock.
That's what I had.
Okay. All right, I'd like to bring, are you ready? You're ready, Linda?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'd like to bring the July 19th Personnel Committee to order. Open up to courtesy of the floor. Anybody wish to address the committee? Seeing no one, we'll move right into the thing here. Review of county executives' appointments or reappointments. I have Farmland Preservation Board. Recommendation for the reappointment of the Farmland Preservation Board. He's submitting the following people for reappointment: Robert Dower of Easton, PA, and Terry Cromer of Easton, PA. They're being considered for a 3-year term to begin effective and to end June 30th, 2020. It's a reappointment, pretty easy. Any questions, concerns? Pardon me? Comment, good people. Motion to move it forward for tomorrow night for full council. All righty. Next one we have here is Lehigh Valley Workforce Development Board. I'm submitting the following individuals for reappointment to Lehigh Valley Workforce Development Board, and all the resumes are attached. Reappointment business category is Stephen Bailey from Bethlehem, PA, Miss Ellen Kingsley, Esquire, Bethlehem, PA, Mr. John McDonald, Bethlehem, PA, and Miss Sharon Schreier, Easton, PA. Each is being considered for reappointment to continue to serve as a business representative for the term ending June 30th, 2020. Again, they're all reappointments. Nothing new. Questions, concerns, motion. Peggy, anything? No? You good? Okay. Move that forward for tomorrow night. Next thing I have is Mental Health Early Intervention and Development Programs Advisory Board. Submitting the following individual for appointment to the Mental Health Early Intervention and Development Program Advisory Board. We have the appointment of Andrea Beauregard of Bethlehem, PA. She's being considered for a term effective date of resolution ending January 23rd, 2020. Resumes attached. Questions, concerns?
There's nobody on the current, or is this an addition, or is this a replacement?
This would have to be a replacement if it's a new appointment.
Well, no, I mean, I think they could have 11 people on that board.
John, is this an addition or a replacement? We're talking about the Mental Health Early Intervention Development Program Advisory Board.
Not John, but Allison could answer.
Okay, well, you look a lot better than John.
Sorry, John. My understanding is it is a replacement for a position and the position has been open, unfilled for a while.
Okay, so we're just augmenting the board with more.
No, this was the solid state, and this was not an increase. This was a position that had not been filled for a while.
So right now we have Michelle Cochran, expires January 20th. Gary Miller expires January 19th. Stephanie Rosario, January 19th. Don Furman, January 19th. Sonia Furman, January 18th. So are we saying that 1, 2, 3, 4, those 5 people are staying on?
Correct.
Okay.
And there's been a position that's been vacant, so hence not on your list.
You could carry 11 people on the board, okay?
I believe you're right.
So you're not limited to the, I guess what I always try to get to is, has somebody resigned abruptly?
No.
Which is always signals to me that there might be an issue.
Okay,
That's right.
no.
So nobody's resigned abruptly.
Correct.
And this is
Natural course of events. We are always looking for volunteers, and we're very grateful for the volunteers we have here in Northampton, and they are really very competent and very heartfelt in what they do. And we are very lucky to have Andrea.
Yeah, keep in mind all these positions are non-compensatable. They all do it out of the kindness of their hearts.
There's been times, it's always interesting to know if somebody resigns abruptly.
Correct. That has not happened.
I think usually you tell us when it's a resignation or something. We usually find out.
That's part of the profile.
Yeah, we usually know, yeah. Okay. Any other questions in regards to this one? Move it forward for tomorrow? Okay. All right, the last one I have is Personnel Appeals Board. This is the good one. I guess it's somebody to replace Lump Sanders, who passed away. And I am submitting the following individuals for appointment to the Personnel Appeals Board. The resumes are attached. We have the appointment of Timothy Hinkle from Northampton, PA. We have Yvonne Johnson Milligan of Bethlehem, PA, considered term to begin upon resolution and end February 3rd, 2019. This one we had a death and a resignation, I believe. And they haven't had a meeting in forever. They have had a new meeting? Okay. Well, they had not had a meeting in forever. But now I think you have it scheduled once a month, whether it's happening or not. And then, you know, this is the board we don't want to have meetings. You know, it's necessary, but hopefully it doesn't get to that point. Any questions on these two appointments?
Just one, are there partisan restrictions on this board? And you've checked the voter registration and everything's... Okay. But what is it, you're not allowed to have more than 3 of one party or 3 and 2, or what's it?
Yeah, I think it would be, I think it's whatever the majority party is, that's, 3 to 2.
Yeah, this board only has 4 on it, though, right? Oh, it has 5? Okay. Yeah, it's probably 3 and 2. Yeah.
Okay. So it'll be 3 and 2 there, okay.
Any other questions regarding this one? All right, we'll move it forward till tomorrow night's meeting. Next thing I have here is a review of a personnel request, Department of Fiscal Affairs, Assessment Division, Real Estate Assessor 3. Now, I'll just resolve by Northampton County Council that one position of Real Estate Assessor 3, pay grade RU 23-01A, salary $41,738, shall be created in the Department of Fiscal Affairs, Assessment Division, effective June 15th, 2017. This came up before. We had questions in regards to it. Peg?
It was tabled as an assessor too, so I don't know if we have to take it off the table tomorrow night,
Yes.
or we have to,
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
well, I know.
It was
but
tabled
it's
as an assessor two. This is an
now
assessor
it's
3. It's a
assessor
different-
3.
a
So is
different
this a
job.
new ballgame?
No, what happened was, it was supposed to be assessor 3, but the paperwork came through as assessor 2. The salary and everything was for assessor 3 position. That we gave
Even the one that
the
was
one
tabled?
previously, yeah. Had the
Okay.
same salary and everything, it just was changed from assessor 2 to assessor 3.
Okay.
But the salary was an assessor 3 salary, the paperwork just was assessor.
I thought it was 46,000. Cheryl, it was supposed to be 46 or 41?
Well, we kind of have to make sure.
According to the pay scale for this.
Yeah, we don't want another Scribner's error, as
It was this
Mr.
salary.
Benol says.
This is the
On the pay
salary
scale.
on the
That-
first
that-
step.
yeah, that we approved last year.
Okay.
I guess what you're asking is us to untable this as this, or for tomorrow night? Or do I have to untable it tonight in
No,
the Personnel Committee and
tomorrow night, it was just here
for review?
For
just
discussion.
because of the discussion we had last personnel committee.
Okay, so let's,
There were questions about it.
I mean, we can continue the discussion now. Most everybody here is going to be here tomorrow night. If we have any questions about it, we should kind of answer them now, since everybody's here to answer them. What was the question? Why is it necessary?
Well, I think that the first question I'm going to have, and I guess if it's removed from the table tomorrow, we will have to have an amendment,
Yes.
because what was submitted was incorrect. If what was initially submitted was assessor 2,
And it's supposed
once
to be
it's
assessor
removed from the
3.
table tomorrow, we will
But that
have to
resolution
make,
wasn't adopted.
no, but if we take it back off the table, we will have to amend it to
Right, to
assessor 3.
But if we table, it's semantics, and I'm not an attorney, but if we tabled an assessor 2, and now they come back with an assessor 3 position, isn't that a totally different position?
That's a good question.
Can't we just bring this up tonight and put it forward to council?
It was just an error in the paperwork that came through to us.
Scribner's error.
It came through on the personnel request as an assessor two.
Right.
But the salary and stuff was assessor three.
Okay, but
So
we
when
tabled the
the
two,
resolution originally, we put assessor two.
right, and we tabled
And then it
assessor
was brought to
two.
our attention that it was supposed to be assessor three.
Yeah, I understand how that
We
works.
went back and we got the
You're
correct
getting
paperwork.
beyond
So
my
technically
question.
it was just a little.
You're getting beyond my question.
It was just a typical.
My question is, if we tabled an assessor two, and now the administration brings forward an assessor three, it's a totally different position. So why don't we just approve this and bring it through and leave that tabled forever? You know what I'm saying? Because it's a different
I guess you
position.
could do it either way. You could either amend, or you could just take it through as a whole new project.
Taking the effect that these numbers are correct, because Peg, I thought you thought it was 45 or something, 44. You thought it was higher than this.
I thought it was higher. I really did, but
It's not?
okay.
So, I mean, how do we proceed? Because it is technically a different job. We got
No,
rid of a two. I don't care about the errors behind the scenes.
Right.
It came up as a two and we tabled it. Now we have a three. It's a totally different job. So we can do it either way.
I think we can do it either way.
I would
And-
fight it either way.
Why
So-
don't we just go ahead with this one?
That's what I'm saying, because it's a
Okay.
different job title. It's not assessor. It's totally different. I mean, I think we have so much.
I think it can be done either way. I just want to make sure we do it right, so we don't have to do it again.
We could ask
so-
Phil if my interpretation's correct, which
I'll check
I
with
think
them.
it is.
Yeah.
So we'll make a motion to put this forward, unless
Yes.
Phil tells it, well, we have a discussion. but-
You know, if Fiscal Affairs or the Assessment Division is here, if they would like to, give us a description as to,
Oh, yeah,
you know-
I want to hear from them. I just wanted to go over the semantics of what we're
Oh,
doing here.
okay.
Okay, I'm not asking for a motion to put it forward tomorrow night yet, because
We're good.
I wanted to hear this too, so. Make my meeting
For
last
everyone who
longer
doesn't
than
know me, I'm Cheryl Johnson, the assessment manager.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. The reason I asked for an assessor three is right now we're working on, it's called Verify. It's a project that we bought to work on to see if there was differences between what the county has listed and what the aerials show. So we can overlay the aerials onto our county records and see if there's any problems.
so if I put an addition onto my house and didn't get a permit for it, it would
Yes.
show up?
Which we
Okay.
have a lot of.
Yeah, we saw your house.
Not that I did that, but I'm saying,
You're gonna get
We saw that four-car garage you put on the back.
Well, we started this project over a year ago. We have 120, almost 122,000 parcels. We've reviewed about 106,000. The rest is vacant land. We found problems with about 50,000. So, needless to say, I have 9 assessors. What we need to do is, we have to go out on every property and then come back, and I have to pick a time period to try to enter everything at one time because they all have to be billed at the same time. So between county bills going out in January and us running school bills in July and August, I need to get that work done. Also, that puts us behind on our building permits. Right now, we have close to 28 to 3,000, I'll say, building permits. Plus, we're looking at the exemption of review again that county council wanted us to do. And there you're talking about 4,000 properties. So the assessors are running around right now. I have them out 3 days doing permits one day, verify the next day. They just started to go out on the, I think there's 24,000 right now that they're reviewing. So I don't see this done in a year, truthfully. That's why I asked for an assessor 3, someone who already knows, can come in and head right out in the field.
When we did the budget last year, Bill, we had, I'm trying to do this from memory, at least one. Two, thank you, I thought it was two. Two assessor twos for 6 months, I believe.
It was 2 assessor 3s for
Was it
6
three-
months.
Threes?
Yes,
Okay.
3s. Tina is currently working right now, which she's over her 6 months that she's allowed to be here. So, and the other position we could not fill because no one will come in for a 6-month period who is an assessor 3. They won't do it because they don't want to have to leave afterward, you know.
Mhm. But, so what was the thought process when we were doing a budget did we think that we would be able to, like 3 assessor 3s, we would be done in 6 months?
We didn't know because we had just been working on it, checking the picture against the sketch. So we didn't know what we were up against, you know. I didn't know if it was a couple thousand, but when it turned out to be close to 50,000 for us to check, it was, you know, what happens is we have several municipalities who don't send us building permits. We have municipalities that issue building permits, but nothing for central air conditioning, which we tax. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of finished basements. You know.
Mine's unfinished.
So's mine. Flooded sometimes.
We're gonna check.
So,
I get it. So what I always said is I reserve the right to get smarter as I get into a project. So you're 6 months into this, a little bit more, you understand the software more, you understand the magnitude of it, you're smarter. Yeah, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but because I always said, I reserve the right to get smarter. So you're smarter now, and it's bigger,
absolutely.
absolutely bigger than you thought it was going to be.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't anything I anticipated to be that much.
Gotcha. Okay.
But when you think about it, I've been here 38 years, and we have never gone into every house or every home or every commercial. Because the companies we hired, they did go in commercial properties back in '91, but not any residential. So I knew we were looking at something. I never thought it was going to be this much.
Okay.
And not to say that we have 50,000 problems, but we have 50,000 flags that we have to look at. I don't
Right.
want anybody to panic and say, oh my God, we have 50,000 problem properties. But they've been flagged and they all have to be looked at.
it's a lot of tax revenue.
We're hoping.
Well, I mean, obviously you're using current satellite imagery because everything else that we can get with Google Earth is 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, we're using, we did the county in 2015.
Actual airplane file.
Oh, you do it that way? Oh, okay. Because, satellite imagery, you can just zoom right in,
Yes, yes.
see who's swimming in the
And
pool.
actually, some of my assessors do use some of that too when they can't see.
Mhm.
When something doesn't look right, they go in and go around the house and that to check it.
Oh, Bob, you can't put any more stuff on Bob's, it's concrete all the way around it. Yeah, you had a question, I think? No?
I have a question.
Bob, go ahead. Mr. Werner, off your vacation just for this?
Start. The rationale we were given for the change was due to PPACA.
And forgive me too, because I don't know what it is.
Again, I'm not good with acronyms, but, and other employment status issues. That's what this was, I thought this was predicated on.
But the only thing that I'll say here is that.
I'm not trying to
Yeah,
put you
no,
on the
no,
spot.
that's all right.
Let Amy address the legality of the issues, but as Mr. Phillips said, we hired someone back in the beginning of the year on a temporary basis
Yes.
to do a project.
Right.
Those 6 months are expired, and we can't keep that person on any longer. So that person we're gonna lose.
I understand that totally, but again, going back to what we were given,
Right.
the rationale for changing this position was due to what was called PPACA. You might not know what it is.
Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
Okay, and it's employment status issues, that was not defined, very broad base. So, this is the first we're hearing,
Right.
we're all hearing about
Well,
this.
we never had an opportunity to myself, I sat here that night. I came back to the next council meeting, and unfortunately it was tabled before I had an opportunity to come up and speak. So this is our first opportunity that we've had to be able to speak, to clarify those particular issues.
I'm surprised we have that much of a gap there between the decision here. I just got the decision. You just said it.
Yeah, it's,
That's it.
I just had another question on the exemption review. Doesn't that get easier every time we do it? Because we hadn't done it for a million years before we actually went into the exempt properties. Shouldn't it
Well,
be?
it doesn't get easier because of the fact that you should go out to every property.
Right.
Okay, so now you're going out to 4,000 properties again.
To
But
the
what
same
I'd
ones
like
to make sure they're still doing
Right.
what they're, okay.
What I'd like to do is, I want to do up a form letter, have my solicitor for the assessment office review it, and then approve it, that we can send that out asking for the correct information to see whether they're still exempt or not.
Okay.
And so, and then they get the right to appeal from
the
there.
church is not a house.
Yeah, well, I have down the street on East Boulevard by Seth's house, somebody has a church in the garage, and it's been there forever. But I know they're assessed that way, but I can see it changing
Right?
anytime when they sell the
I mean,
home.
you know,
Yeah, and then
they have to prove their nonprofit.
the first time through, we did find a lot of people that weren't tax exempt, right? What was that number?
I think it was around 4 million in assessment, which one,
One large one.
yeah, one large one. It was the church up in either Walnut, Lehigh Township. And then I think Jandal ended up buying it. And
Yes.
he's switching that.
Mary Immaculate Seminary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember what it was, but.
Yeah, I'm just curious, but I thought maybe, I mean, I know it's the same amount, you have to make sure they're still, but I thought after the first time, when you found,
Yeah.
oh, because we had tons of them the first time around.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
We're just trying to figure out, if we send a letter out, the volume we're gonna get back, or are they gonna send it back? Because they have to prove, they're nonprofit, they have to bring it in their bylaws, they have to do all that. So that you end up with a stack of papers like this. And then they have the right to appeal it
To the appeals board, yeah. Okay, do we have any other questions for John?
Yeah, I guess just to follow up then, since you did not fill the second 6-month position, from a budget standpoint, filling this as a full-timer would be budget neutral. So that's kind of a no-brainer from a financial standpoint. I guess then my follow-up question is, do you need an additional position filled, or are all your positions filled right now, or what is your office staffing status right now?
My thought is, after I have an assessor 3 position, then they can go start working in the field. As far as needing another assessor, I'm happy with what I get at this time,
Okay.
until I see how much and how long it's taken the assessors out in the field. Because they're getting bombarded by taxpayers saying, what are you doing? And then they have to stand there and explain it. Actually, I was thinking about putting something in the newspaper about what we're doing. And I had them inform every municipality to let them know that we're doing this verify. And so if anybody calls, to let them know.
Well, they used to write newspaper articles about stuff like this.
They used to have newspapers. Okay, now, my last question is, to Peg's disbelief, is 41 enough to keep somebody in a position like this? I mean, do we lose people? Because,
And this person's experienced.
That's the.
that's the entry
first-
level of the position.
Right.
Okay, it just seems, I don't know, for what they do, it seems low, but,
It is, and she's experienced, she was an assessor that worked here prior for 5 years and left because of a family situation. And now she came back, she said, sure, I'll do it, sure, when I called her. And she said, I'll be glad to come back, and she said, I'll do the work for you.
but she has to come back as a step 1 because she's technically new, or she comes back to where she was? 2, okay. All right, because
Well,
it's,
that's what I was wondering. How much of a salary cut is she getting because she's coming back on step one when she has all this 5 years experience?
well, someone
just
that we
curious.
call back. Someone that we call back, hey, will you come work for us? That was my only question. Are there any other questions in regards to this Assessor 3 position that we're going to get a recommendation to put forward tomorrow for a vote and a discussion? Nothing?
I would really like to know what her salary was when she left, if she's getting penalized for staying home and taking care of her family or her family emergency.
Her mother was ill,
Well, you can
so she ended up.
find that out and amend anything you want tomorrow night, Ms. Ferrero,
Okay.
if you see fit.
Okay,
Because we'll have it tomorrow night for
All right.
discussion.
okay.
Okay? Nothing else? Thank you.
Thanks.
And I do want to thank the council for considering it at this time, and hopefully Cheryl did express there is an immediate need, and, we always reevaluate, and
We'll be fine.
again, there is an immediate need, so thank you very much.
It looks like that's the last thing on my agenda, so it's an adjournment. Over to the Finance Committee. Mr. Phillips.
Okay.
I'm going to start the Finance Committee meeting for July 19, 2017. The first is courtesy of the floor. Don't see any courtesy of the floor. Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
I just wanted to update council. I know they're coming up for everyone, but
The silo.
actually share these.
The silo's gone.
Thank you very much.
Can you state your name and where you live for
Now,
the
isn't
record?
that more in keeping with the architecture?
I just wanted to let you know I met with the engineer, or the architect and engineer. I had instructed him to put a different shape on the side so that we can make the stairwell handicapped accessible and our second egress and look like it fits right in. I cannot make it stone all the way up because that would be way too
No.
costly, but it has the right roof and it has the right shape, and once I
I'm
get the
happy.
specs, I am putting it out for bid, and I will bring it back to you once we get the bids back.
But I like the silo.
Sorry, you're outvoted as well as
Goes
I
with the
am,
barn,
Mr. Kraft.
the barn image,
Understood, but we are outvoted, and so
I'm just
I just
teasing.
want to bring this back so that everybody
Bugging
sees
me.
where we're headed and what we're doing with it, okay?
It's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Okay.
It's
Thank you
really,
for-
really very nice. Thank you.
The next thing is tomorrow night we'll have public comment and discussion and a vote on an ordinance for providing for the allocation of funds through the central booking plan fees to the designated central booking center. This was introduced last county council meeting by myself and Matthew Dietz, and we brought it here to see if there's any discussion on this prior to the county council meeting. So do we have anybody with a discussion on this? Any items?
I have discussion on it.
Oh, please.
I don't personally see why we should be paying for the central booking place up there when they built it on their own on a grant and a handshake promise saying, yeah, you could do it up there to save your time and money for your officers from coming down here. And then all of a sudden, because 5 communities in Monroe County and the state police can't get together to finance it, Northampton County has to finance it. Now, we have a central booking place right here that we pay for that doesn't make any money, doesn't break even, doesn't make money. It costs us money to run. But now you want to take some of that money and give it to these people who out of 5 municipalities can't get the little bit of money up they need to run their central booking to keep their officers up where they are. And I don't understand why we are doing this as a council, why we are trying to correct something that was made by those municipalities to allow their officers to stay around and be up in the area that we gave the blessing to.
Right.
I don't follow it.
What we're doing is to the extent that the fees are collected for, let's say, Lehigh Township, the fees are collected for Lehigh Township, those fees collected would go to the computer lines, and they're outlined in here. If there's not enough fees collected to cover it, then the township would have to pay for it. So it's not an out-of-pocket to the county.
But again, it was allowed to be up there. They built it with a grant, to let them save all that money from not having an officer off duty for the hours it takes to come down here and book somebody at our central booking. It's an act, they're already making money on it. They're making money by having their officers freed up to do the job that they're hired for and not coming down here to central booking. So, and 90% of the fees, as you heard from the courts, aren't even collected because the judge defers them or something on sentencing.
Then, to the extent that they don't make it with their fees, they'll have to make up the difference.
And if I could add something here.
Go ahead, Matt.
So the state, so the whole central booking fee, the $300 fee, was something the state started, recognizing that a facility that separates a jail, like just say the Slate Belt Regional we have up there in Wind Gap, separate than that is they take a cost going further. So to be a central booking station as opposed to just a regular community, jail, they realize that there's an added fee and cost to it. That is why they allowed the imposition of the $300 up to $300 central booking fee. So it is for the prisoners that are booked through there where that fee is assessed from. They're not taking, I think it's a misconception to say you're taking it from Easton for there. These are prisoners that are processed up there, and because they're processed up there, the state allows the $300 to follow that person through the municipality which they were essentially booked at.
All right, Mr. Dietz, but I think you're missing the point that we have a central booking station that the fees get paid for, and if all push comes to shove, they should just shut it down and bring them down to the central booking place here and do what the county already has established. And we could have the officers off the street for hours, and they cannot gain that monetary gain by having an officer available to the street to do their job. I mean, this came out of a handshake deal, and now we're making it that we're going to pay for it, and I don't think the county should pay for it.
Well, I don't.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
It's a handshake. I don't think it's really just a handshake deal. It was the grant was for the construction of it, which they covered all the rest of that themselves up there in the municipality. They volunteer or they cover all the police labor costs of booking the criminals up there. That's all on their back, not the county's back.
They have to cover them to book them down here, too. If they come down here, it's the same cost. The cost is the cost to have the cop take a guy to the booking center. The advantage is they don't have the police officer out of their area for hours coming down here. That's why we offered them to do it up there and let them build it, not to finance it and keep it running forever. I mean, if five municipalities can't get together and pay the tiny bit of money they need to keep it going, I mean, then close it.
Well, wait a minute. The court. Hey, Matt, hold on a minute. Matt, hold on a minute. So the court authorized 3 booking centers. That was our court, and the law says that booking fees are to go to support of the booking centers. So to me, that's a no-brainer. You have a booking center in Lehigh, you have a booking center in Bethlehem, and a booking center here. The fees that go to support those booking centers go to the affected booking centers that's utilized. If the monies collected does not support that center, then the municipalities have to pay. If there's more money collected than is needed, the money reverts back to the county. I mean, that's as clean and as equitable as I think you can get. Very little cost to the county. The county didn't pay anything for the building, for the infrastructure, not for the police officers that are manning it. It is paid for by the fees.
Well, you're correct.
If the fees don't
part
pay
of
for it,
your
then the taxpayers up there will pay for it.
Part of your belief is correct. The courts did have to approve a booking center up there. You're right. They did. They had to say, yeah, we're going to allow that up there, and this is the way it runs. Okay? They didn't approve us paying for it. I mean, I'm going to stand on my
The original language was envisioned for a singular entity, not multiple entities. And at that point, it was the city of Bethlehem was actually, the police department there had taken on the charge for a period of time as being the central booking center for Northampton County. It didn't exist anywhere else. It didn't exist at the prison. At some point, I don't have all the details. Bethlehem no longer would operate a 24-hour operation. They scaled back, and I believe that's when the chief then came over and started one here in Northampton County, expanding it to 2. Lehigh Township came in recently. But the intent, the original intent, and I think this is just a few comments I want to make, was the fact that when I was approached by the Chiefs of Police Association, which represented all 32 municipalities, police departments in the county, the focus of this, and actually I believe when central booking was originated, detectives and officers currently spend countless hours sitting, waiting to arraign suspects, when the initial intent of the planning process almost 2 decades ago was to develop a drop-and-go system to enable police to get back to their respective jurisdictions, thereby reducing gaps in police coverage. This is critical to all departments for continuity of police coverage within their respective municipalities. Our department's officers conservatively estimate to spend 15 to 20 hours per month at central booking waiting to be arraigned. The motivation for creating at the time, and you can understand why there would be some incentive to expand, because we're tying up departments here because of our inefficiency at the prison. Literally could be up to 4 hours. Most of that would be paid in overtime. When polled amongst all the police departments, the city of Bethlehem, Chief DeLuzio stated that while they still had a booking center there, they still were benefiting approximately 50 to 75 hours per month in savings in manpower, usually paid at time and a half. So if you do the math, so the motivation to improve our booking center, which we did, to a true drop and go, and it's been whatever that period of time is, we've had 0 complaints. We're down to 15 minutes, literally. So the motivation for having multiple centers truly isn't there. The idea that it should be each department, now the city of Bethlehem would be saving at 600 hours per year. They're saving in manpower $30,000 a year. The equipment costs that we're talking about are a few $1,000s, $20,000 maybe in total over 3 to 5 years. So they're saving $100,000 over the same in manpower, getting more efficiencies in time. The same with every police department. The smallest departments, and I have a number of comments here, are saving between 15 and 20 hours per month in manpower. If you take an average salary of at 20 hours, that's 240 man hours at $50 an hour in overtime. That's $12,000 minimally annually. Each department is getting to save. If you take Lehigh Township, that in their grant application said there would be 6 departments plus the state police. That's $80,000 a year of manpower dollars that are being saved, and with the intent of improving the local community. So for them to come in now and go, well, you should be paying for our equipment on top of that, I find a bit egregious, when the intent, which when I took the project on, was to be able to have the office have a true drop and go here in Northampton County, and we achieved that. And we had to invest in that. We put in the money and so on and so forth. In addition, the county, we had to increase our manpower to do so. So we are running at Northampton County, as I said, on average, probably about $150,000 in the red. When Judge Barada, we approached Judge Barada and asked him to sign the court order increasing the booking fee. I believe it was at the time $225, up to the maximum $300 allowable. His comment in his memo back authorizing the increase was going, we understand it's in the red. This is just an incremental. We don't believe it'll make it revenue neutral, but we'll do what we can to increase that with the idea that it would help offset our costs here in Northampton County. That's the intent of the central booking system. I understand the direction that Hayden and Mr. Dietz are trying to go with this. I have the same concern when the grant application was done, and through this whole conversation I've had with the police departments, it was never an intent that we would then continue to be an ongoing paying for their equipment, which is a nominal cost for the benefit, I believe, on multiple levels, not just financial, in terms of coverage and so on and so forth, and including the state police average at least 40 man-hours per month savings because of the improvement we've made here at Northampton County Central Booking overall. So the additional booking centers, it does not change our revenue stream, meaning we book them there, book them here, the same dollars flow through the system. We're still arresting roughly and booking the same number, the same about 4,000, I think, go through the court system ultimately on average. If you read the court's annual report, you can see that number. So it's, it's not a revenue generating, it's just where the intake comes from. In addition, when we went one step further to alleviate the MDJ office's burden, because it used to be that whoever the MDJ was that was on that night would be on 24/7 for arraignment. So you arrest somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning, you bring them in, you call up the MDJ, you wake them up, they have to do an arraignment, so on and so forth. And we negotiated on their behalf to, we would hold the detainee as of 11 p.m. We'd hold them until 8 a.m. or 7 a.m., at which point then the MDJs, they could get a full night's sleep. So that was another benefit that we built into the system going forward. So some history, some background, and just some more dollars.
Okay, I've heard from Ken.
I have one more question for John.
Okay,
Follow up
can I
with his statement.
Matt, do you have
No,
point?
I have questions, but I don't want.
I just have a follow-up with John real quick. If they got this fee, whoever's asking for it, Lehigh Township, and how much is actually paid? Because I know they came here with some crazy numbers and they're seeing cash cow. What was the amount of money that they would get from us?
The number I would defer to, I did my calculation. You had asked the controller to do his evaluation, and I believe Mr. Barron reported about $4,500.
Right.
$4,500 a year?
On a net basis is what would be translated through based on the bookings that went through Lehigh Township's.
So then we'd be running
$4,500 per year.
$115,000 a year deficit in our central booking. If we give them the $5,000 a year, we're running $115,000 deficit in our central booking.
I believe, if I'm interpreting the ordinance correctly, Mr. Phillips, the idea would be whatever the equipment T1 line costs are, and I forget, I don't have them off the top of my head, the difference is what we pay. We're not going to send them $4,500 a year.
They would get compensated for their equipment upgrades?
Well, the equipment, that's I believe through the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police Association who installs that equipment and then bills annually so about every 3 to 5 years, the core, some of the equipment upgrades, that's an $18,000 to $20,000 upgrade, and then there's an annual maintenance of $3,000 to $5,000, depending on the specifics there.
And my last question for you was, they had said that Monroe County was coming down, and the state police were also using that center.
Correct.
So is there monetary, are they chasing them for money too? Are we asking Monroe County and the state police for money for booking their people in our centers?
No, I don't believe we are. And again, I'll refer back to the interpretation of the grant.
Carbon County, whatever county, somebody else is, well, Monroe's right there too,
And
aren't
there's
they?
some Lehigh County that comes
No.
in, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you. You're in the audience. Talk to us when somebody asks you for a thing. Okay, thank you.
Matt?
I have to get down to the bottom here where it says, okay, so if there's excess money, the remaining balance will go to cover the budget needs of the overall county's central booking system. And then if there's a shortfall, we go back to the specific central booking facility. Now there I see an issue, because I believe it was Lehigh Township that came, and there's 6 municipalities that tie into that. So if we make this deal, are those other municipalities that use that booking station, are they agreeing to split those costs?
Well, that was what was originally worded in the grant proposal.
But that's what I'm saying is with what we're doing here is we're saying that if there's not enough revenue generated, that the central booking stations have to cover that. So now we're going back to Lehigh Township and saying, okay, you have to cover that balance. But now nothing says that Lehigh Township can go back to the other municipalities and say, well, you know what, you guys use us, so you have to pony up and pay in your equal share. So
They
this-
don't
this
have an
becomes-
agreement. That's why we're putting the cart in front of the horse with this.
Well,
They
that's
aren't even running
I'm
amongst
just
themselves.
well, I'm just trying not to do a government mistake here, because that's the next thing is going to be we'll have those other municipalities coming down saying, why are we on the hook for something you guys passed? That's just my concern, because from what the executive's saying, the central booking stations don't make the money, so there will be a shortfall. And if there is, we have to make sure that, like, if by this resolution, we're going to get that money back.
What's the procedure to make up that difference?
Right, and then my other question is, and this is what I'm still kind of curious on, is we seem to be all over the map with how much these fees, what's being collected. Because not everybody that's booked is paying that $300 fee, because it could be waived at some point. So unless we have an accurate... Well, but what I'm saying is numbers are numbers.
To answer that, if I may, you have to look at the controller's analysis of it. It was pretty detailed. I think that it's telling us that Lehigh Township would not have enough money collected to support themselves, and they would have to go back. I feel comfortable with that analysis that the controller did. I mean, I think you have an excellent question in regards to, if we have to go back to them and say, well, you have a shortfall of $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever it is, who do we go back? How do who do we tell? I mean, that is, there's a gap there in my mind that we don't go back and tell them, we're closing it, and then we get this intramural firefight among them, who's going to pay for it.
Well, then maybe you should pull this until they decide to have an agreement between the 5 municipalities and what they're going to do in case that happens. And then they can come here and tell us what they're going to do, and then we can make an ordinance or something that fits their needs.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull it right now. I'm going to ask somebody from Lehigh Township or the chief to come down and address this to see if it has been thought through.
The chief should be here tomorrow night.
The other part is if you take Lehigh Township, they're benefiting $12,000 a year already as it is, which we, in manpower savings. So their ability to cover their own equipment costs, and that's just the point I'm making. They're benefiting. Now they want to keep that, and then they're asking for us to cover additional fees, where the general assumption through most of the departments that you talk to, their whole motivation is manpower costs. Like all of us, manpower cost is the most expensive cost that we have, typically. And they were satisfied with that. So for me, this is a step going in a direction. Now you're asking for, you got your $12,000, now you want an additional $3,000 a year, whatever the number comes in, where the county did its part. We stepped up, we corrected our system, we've done everything we can. We run a 24/7 operation. Bethlehem, I think, only runs limited hours. I don't know what Lehigh Township's benefit is, but we don't have the luxury of not having the central booking system here, because we support all the other remaining departments, and that's our commitment to do that, and we'll continue to do that. The satellite, whether it be Bethlehem or Lehigh Township, as far as I'm concerned, are good if they want to maintain them and keep them for a nominal cost in the equipment. That would be appropriate. They benefit already because of their own local manpower saving, and they get to support the flows of some of the other departments. All well and good. But Lehigh could decide we don't want to do it anymore tomorrow, be done with it. There's no obligation for them to continue, and the same for Bethlehem, where I believe we've entered into an obligation to at least continue
I
with the
think that
central booking system.
if they were to close down, they would have to go to the courts and have our central booking plan changed. So because we have a central booking plan
It's not the courts.
approved.
It's not the courts that approved the plan. It was the.
That wasn't the chief of
It's not
police.
the courts. The courts endorsed the creation of the general concept of a central booking. They don't endorse the actual plan itself. I don't.
Well, who endorsed the plan? I thought it was. I thought it was
you
court.
submitted to P. I forget who. It's not PCCD, but.
But who submitted it?
Dan Keene, the Director of Corrections. And, additionally, we have, it's called this Northampton County Central Booking Plan. Northampton County has no influence over Bethlehem Central Booking. We can't tell them, no, you have to run a 24-hour, you got to do this, you got to, nor do we have any say over Lehigh Townships. They can open it for an hour, they could open it for 24 hours. So while it's under the umbrella of a Northampton County plan, we don't have any say over their operations, so it's a de facto plan. So,
Okay.
all right. Any other questions?
Do you have something?
Just a couple comments. The initial grant application that Lehigh Township submitted, from what we heard from them, there was some expectation that additional revenue would follow. And I'm always weary when people get state grants, because what happens is there's some expectation that there will be more state grants. But in this case, it was clear to me that they did have a reasonable expectation that there would be a certain amount of revenue. And certainly the amount of revenue varies from year to year, like any other of our revenues does. I mean, we don't know how many marriage licenses we're going to get or how many deed transfers. So to try to put an exact number on that is kind of a folly. But we can estimate from year to year, and we have somewhat accurate numbers that the controller put together. Second argument I've heard is that we are providing a service to these departments. Well, some of these smaller departments in these boroughs, they're stretched. And driving from Northampton Borough or Walnutport to here, that's timely, especially in traffic, this time of the day, if that's the case. So you're telling a smaller department to make a drive from Northampton or North Caddy to Easton. That's a significant amount of time for a small borough. As for what happens with Lehigh Township and the other municipalities up there, that's for them to decide. I mean, I think that they can come to a reasonable agreement as to who's going to put in for it if it's a few $1,000s here or there. But I think that this is a public safety issue. I don't think it's a lot of money, but I do think we should back up the municipalities and those small police departments who, for them, this is significant to have this service in Lehigh Township and Bethlehem as well as here in Easton. So that's all I had to say.
The only correction.
Yeah, John, can I one second? I cut Matt Dietz off, and I want to get back to him. Matt, do you have any comments? I feel like I did cut you short there, so I'm going to ask if you have any response.
No, and actually, what you said when you cut me off was exactly actually what I was trying to say. So
okay.
It was good.
Thanks. John?
The only correction I'd make, Mr. Cusick, is in the grant application process submitted by Lehigh Township, there is some languaging that specifically says, in the event that the ongoing maintenance costs and so on and so forth would be shared amongst the 6 municipalities that would be intending to participate, and it would be a minimum of $3,000 per some. So that is an expectation that they knew they would have to be absorbing these costs at some point. None of the municipalities that I've talked to with the chief of police had an expectation of any revenue sharing. It wasn't, again, it wasn't that. It was a public safety matter, keeping local police in the local areas. And again, as former mayor of Bangor, I know exactly what the cost to the borough was, because we'd come down and I'd have tied up a police office for sometimes an entire shift. By the time they got down here, sat for 4 hours, and then got back to the borough, so on and so forth. So I do have an appreciation and sensitivity for it. At the same time, from the time we've opened central booking here in the county, we've absorbed about $150,000 a year operating loss since then overall with that, and that's our contribution to the 32 police departments and so on and so forth, in addition to the $450,000 that we're actually spending to operate that portion of the system. So.
Now, you said it's 6 municipalities? I keep saying 5.
I forget the number. I think it was 5 or 6.
So that's $500 a municipality per year for them to keep this open on their own, and they can't afford that.
Again, that's a conversation that I don't know if it actually took place or not.
But I mean,
There's
there's
no
a grant.
MOU in place at the time, I
Yeah.
believe, or I don't know if that took place. That's a conversation for Lehigh Township. So,
Any other discussion on this?
all right, thank you.
I'm going to ask, I think myself, Matt, and you're on the Finance Committee, correct? I'm going to recommend this tomorrow. Matt, do you have you made a decision?
I'm not on that.
Oh, you're not on the Finance? I'm sorry. Matt Dietz are. Matt?
I am, yeah, I second that.
And Robert's on it, right? Bob's on the Finance? You recommend it? Okay. So we're going to recommend this to the Finance Committee. And I know Matt Dietz has told us that the chief will be here, and I've been in correspondence with Cindy Miller, and she'll be here from their Board of Supervisors. So we'll
Okay,
hear
well,
from them.
tell them to bring their agreement between the 6 municipalities and how they're going to pay for it.
Any other questions? Okay. I think we're ready for Mr. Barron.
Good afternoon, members of council. I have 2 audit reports for you today. The first is the Domestic Relations Agency Fund. I believe that was first up on the agenda.
Yes, thank you.
The agency funds I do on a rotating basis, one agency fund every 4 years. I believe since this is a smaller agency fund, there will be another one that gets lumped in there before the end of the year. I think there are 5 or 6, and the 2 smaller ones get piggybacked on with the criminal, civil. The civil and sheriff are usually done together, and then it's the orphans and wills. So this particular fund is run very, very well. Much of it is pass-through money that is collected by the state through various payrolls and then kicked back out of the system in checks to people who receive the child support that runs through this office. So there were no major findings in this office, but when you hear about what those folks do over there, it's pretty impressive. During 2016, a total of $40.7 million, that's with a million, in total support payments was collected for Northampton County cases. $1 million is collected at that specific office. So that is a substantial amount of money, and to have no findings is pretty incredible. There was one small exception that was explained before the audit report came out. And so far, the fund in 2017 had approximately $334,000 in activity with a cash balance of $19,068. So most of the money that comes in obviously goes right back out. They keep very, very good internal controls. The issue was basically supporting documentation and evidence that things were checked over. I think it was a bank reconciliation, if I'm not mistaken, and that was clarified relatively quickly. I think I don't exactly remember the facts that why that one person didn't sign off or whatever, but it was handled relatively quickly. Any questions about any of that? Yes.
Do they handle cash there at all?
I don't believe they're a cash handling office. I could be mistaken. I'm trying to remember the 34 offices we look at. I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not 100% sure. But I believe most of it has to be paid either by money order check, something along those lines. So, any other questions? Okay. The next audit is just simply a follow-up from the Medical and Dental Self-Insurance Trust Fund. There were 2 outstanding issues. Both corrective actions have been taken. The first is improve the process involved with employee opt-out payments. we had looked at that specifically for the medical health insurance as well as the dental health insurance. We just make sure, one of our pushes with the administration was to make sure that people who opt out, that they're not getting the payments if they receive a benefit. Because otherwise you have to go back to that employee, collect the opt-out money back, and it creates a bit of a mess. As part of the 2017 open enrollment, we will include an audit of all opt-out participants and require a review on an annual basis prior to the open enrollment of opt-out payments, so that corrective action has been taken. There'll be no more issues with any of that. And we'll have good confidence that the money paid out in opt-out payments was supposed to be paid out. And then the second one was the absence of authorized signatures. Written approval has to be obtained for all invoices paid as evidence that someone reviewed the invoice and determined that it was appropriate to pay it. We selected 14 transactions that occurred between January and May of 2017 to make sure we didn't have any other issues with invoices not being authorized. That was 20% of the total transactions, and there were no issues. So that corrective action has been taken in our mind, and no further follow-up is necessary. Any questions about any of that? Yes.
You don't look at funding of this in regards to the level of funding for the, is our obligations covered?
No, that's an actuarial calculation. Within our office, though, my audit manager follows specifically for our office. And part of my operating expenses each year and the money that gets turned back, when we have savings in our budget, if we do have an unexpected expense, I believe the 1 year to cover our peer review, we were able to pay additional travel expenses for our peer reviewer without coming for a council budget amendment, because they had said we would need X amount in our medical and or X amount in our salary, and we didn't use it. So we could transfer the money within our fund based on the administrative code. So I see that quite a bit. It's not an exact science, and I think what happened, which caused, if you remember, we mentioned that $3 million difference. And I think what you see in the actuarial numbers, just to kind of put that into context, when the administration changed the health care benefits and required that a percentage be paid out of pocket, as opposed to everything the stuff being covered at 100% under the old grandfathered plan, I think a lot of people rushed to the doctor to get fixed what got fixed. I think they really wanted to make sure that that was the case. So we saw an explosion in healthcare costs at the end of that year. And that sort of messed with the actuarial calculation because it was sort of a blip on the radar. And we put a lot more money aside, rightfully so, because we were following the recommendations of our actuary. And those things didn't come to fruition because now it costs a little bit more money to get certain things done. So people might think and plan certain, if I have a little bit of knee pain and I might need knee surgery, I might wait a little bit if I can get through that pain, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I think happened, but I can't say for certain. I haven't talked to our actuary, but just looking at the numbers and following the trends just within my office, that's what I believe happened.
This is somewhat separate but related. One of the things that I believe the previous administration implemented was spousal coordination of benefits.
Yes.
Is that something that you have looked at, or is that handled through our provider?
It's handled through the provider, and quite honestly, it drives me insane because they never seem to get mine when I send them in. Yes, they do that, and they don't pay bills if they don't get the coordination of benefits. Because I've paid doctor bills that should have been covered, and I'm still waiting for reimbursements for bills that I paid that weren't covered. So I tell you, yes, they go. Personal experience, they do that very, very diligently for the coordination of benefits. They look for other benefits or the possibility of other benefits. I do not believe that if a spouse can be covered, we charge any additional, or maybe we do depending on when the person was hired. I know that there's no fee charged for my wife, even though she could be covered under Lehigh Valley Hospital. We choose the county benefits. So therefore, my whole family is on the county benefits, and there's no additional there. And I just have to say, my wife is covered, and there's no additional fee. Now, if I would go on my wife's benefits, and I could be covered by the county, I have to pay an additional $50 to Lehigh Valley Hospital for that. So there's sort of like a give and take that goes on with some companies in the healthcare market. So it depends on the rules of your specific plan. It's also like we no longer have post-employment benefits for employees. So I would qualify for post-employment benefits based on the date I was hired, but others don't. So I'm not really sure where that falls out, but I know that Capital Blue Cross always sends that out, that coordination of benefits. And I have to do it 3 times a year, once for my wife, once for my older daughter, and once for my younger daughter.
Yeah, I mean, it was my understanding that it was supposed to be that if your spouse was eligible for benefits at their place of work, that they would be no?
No. I don't think that's ever been an issue.
Can we clarify spousal coordination then?
Spousal coordination of benefits is based on your hire date. If you were hired after, I think it's 2012 or 2013,
Yeah, I was here when we
and
changed
your spouse has benefits available to them, they're required to take those benefits. They can be secondary on our insurance, which is what I think you're talking about, so they can have our benefits as their secondary insurance, but if they have benefits available, they have to take those as their primary. Based on hire dates prior to that, people were grandfathered into permitting their spouse to remain on the plan, even if benefits were otherwise eligible to them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was grandfathered in that manner, but that does explain it. But anybody hired after we changed it in 2012, if their spouse is in a job where they have access to benefits, they cannot waive those benefits.
Correct.
In order to get, okay.
That is correct, yep. They can still have our benefits, but they would be secondary.
All right. And we do the coordination through our provider? They do does your office handle that?
Our office actually handles the spousal coordination in that we have the affidavit signed if benefits aren't otherwise made available to them. So we process the coordination of benefits, but I think you mean, Mr. Barron means is that the hospital, or I'm sorry, that the provider will confirm that it is secondary, that there are other benefits available. For us, it is them either opting in or opting out, confirming that, and then we enter into Capital Blue Cross's system, whether they're primary on our benefits or secondary on our benefits.
Okay. Because one of the issues that we've seen here from time to time is people who are on our benefit plans that either otherwise have insurance or don't belong there, people that have left employment and have stayed on.
We ask, and we do try to audit that, and the Controller's Office actually gives us a regular report, and we go through it. Oftentimes what that audit shows is the difference in when they're terminated to when Capital removes them, and it ends up getting backdated, but at the time of the report, it might not show. So we do coordinate all of that with the Controller's Office. They actually, as a courtesy, I think it's quarterly, provide the report for us so that we have it, but we also can run reports through Capital, and we get a monthly report with Capital for those who become eligible for Medicare or who are eligible for the senior bill.
And Mr. Cusick, if you look at the 2 medical insurance audit reports, because now we're into the second time we've done that, you'll notice the issues from the first report don't exist in the second report because we do that quarterly. So we don't see people getting new cards that shouldn't have them. We don't see people languishing on our benefits, for lack of a better word, for longer periods of time because we identified within that 3 months.
Okay.
And there are sometimes we do get people that pop up, which Mrs. Trapp said, because there's like a little bit of a lag with the data termination when we run the report. But those are easily fixed or looked at, and it never involves the pennies, if any.
But I'm just saying, a few years ago, this was a significant issue. You remember that.
Oh,
and-
yes, I do.
So I just wanted to follow up and make sure that, as well as spousal, that some of these other things were being looked at. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Barron? Anything else to come before the Finance Committee? Seeing none, stand adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Matt.
What do we want?